Hello.
Boo! I bet you didn't expect that.
Okay. I actually didn't. That actually surprised me a bit.
That was more for the audience, but I mean, whoever it works for, I guess.
Well, it got me too. On
Yo,
this podcast we have today.
what is this? I can't even
Gee.
read that. It's who?
Well, it says puts the pimp on top, and let me see if I can get the full image up. uh, so the full image is puts the pimp in Pimpri Chinchwad.
What the fuck does that mean?
I'm not too sure, but it's probably some Indian thing. I hope it's not too bad of a slur. That's
I
my
think
hope.
you get a pass if it's like a slur that you didn't know about.
Well, if I didn't know about it and it turns out to be one, I may start using it. Welcome to the podcast.
The podcast ever.
The podcast ever.
So, how's it been?
It's been okay. Been all right.
Better than
Just
being bad.
just hanging, chilling, doing a little bulling. It's been cold.
Yo,
And
I haven't heard bullying in a while.
it's been cold and you get affected by that. Not well, I guess in the sense that like you just don't want to get out of bed in the morning. It's too much to start revving up your engine like that. You just want to be under those covers and you just kind of feel like staying there.
That did actually happen to me today.
I didn't do that today. It was really cold today and I didn't do that today, but still. I get it.
I did it today. Like I usually I wake up and I spend like an hour on my phone or so, and then I'm like, oh shit, I need to actually like make breakfast and stuff. But then what I did today was after like an hour passed, I was like, I really don't want to get out of here. This is pretty warm, and it's pretty not warm outside of here. So add another hour.
Have you seen the memes where it's like unemployed people when they realize they have to play Fortnite for 6 hours
Yeah,
and eat breakfast? Yeah,
yeah.
I feel that.
It's
That's
I don't play
understandable.
Fortnite though.
Yeah. Have you seen the meme where it's like, also, this reminds me of that other meme where it's like, somebody's looking at one side of the bus and it's like a dark, like, route. Like, it's like there's a lot of horror and stuff and sadness. And the other person's looking, it's like a sunny meadow, but it's like they're on the same bus.
Yeah,
It was like that
like
one was
one's on the
captioned
left,
with,
one's on the right.
yeah, that one was captioned with like having a job. And then one's like, well, I think they were actually both like sorrowful. Like in that one, they were both like, both of them were the bad one. And it's like having a job, not having a job.
Yep, pretty
There was no
much.
good one.
You can't win. You're fucked.
Yeah. Well,
I've been on
what are
both
the best
sides.
activities? What are the best activities for people to be doing other than working? What is good to do if you're not working all day?
Well, I happen to know a fellow that's not working all day. Uh and he keeps busy. I'll tell you that much. Well, you could engage in research of important topics.
Mm-hmm. Like current
Like for
events, you mean?
example, I mean it could be current events. But this fellow of mine that I know who's unemployed, he he researches a lot about, just anything that is in in a way an investment of knowledge that you can be
Okay.
that can be practical in a sense. So like for example, learning about like finances, diet, uh history, political science, anything like that where you're more aware of how to use the resources you have in a certain situation.
Yeah, I find it good to be developing skills. I mean, that too, like what you're talking about is good. But also things that you can just apply and hopefully monetize because I mean, obviously getting more of those resources is also beneficial. And, once you have the correct sort of like mindset or like understanding of the world, the philosophy, then you can really like get good at accruing resources and implementing it in ways that benefits you and in a positive way. I mean, it's pretty hard to mess up when you're on the right track, mentally and understanding what the right things are to do within your situation. You're pretty much landing yourself in the best spot you can.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was gonna say. Any kind of, I mean, we live in an age. We
live in a society.
We live in a civilization, but you weren't expecting that one.
No.
Where you can pretty much make money off of anything.
That is
So
true.
if you can become good enough at one particular thing, or even multiple things, if you want to go over and above, which is kind of ideal, probably a good idea in this saturated market, you can basically monetize anything. So if you're doing anything besides just playing video games all day, and I mean, even that,
Yeah.
even if you're playing video games all day, you can monetize that.
Just start streaming.
And I mean, with like little effort too. Like before, it used to be like, well, you'd have to record yourself playing, and then you'd have to edit it, and then you have to add funny parts and add an intro and outro. You don't even have to do that now. You can just stream, except if you're on Twitch, because then you got to be half naked to do that.
Wait, you're telling me no longer do I have to do COD Family Guy funny moments?
I mean, you can.
I don't think it's going to get as many views as it used to.
I think
been playing Call of Duty.
The interesting thing about the content market is that things that are out of fashion become in fashion because they're out of fashion.
Interesting. So you think me doing that would almost be creating a niche again for it?
Pretty much, if you do it right.
Like maybe some people are kind of missing it from back in the day. There are some people that watch Family Guy memes and they like it. There's a new audience for it. I mean, people have gotten older, and there's also people that are new. New people.
Well, there's that. But what I was really hinting at is the fact that it's so out of what's considered, I guess you could say, the norm, that it becomes funny that you're still doing it, which is in itself a form of entertainment.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But I mean, I was also saying there's a new market of people that don't even remember it, and they probably will unironically watch it.
That too.
The kids,
But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
anything,
that's a decent way to keep yourself busy.
I mean, basically, you have to just not be doing. We were talking about this earlier in like a different context where I'm not going to give the entire context of it because that kind of gets into like a political thing. But basically, if you were in a position where the markets were kind of free to do what as they would, it would be pretty hard to be like homeless for the most part, because you could basically monetize anything. I mean, obviously we don't live in a civilization like that right now, but I mean, it's not too far away. You can make money off of anything.
Yeah, I mean, that I guess just moving around, not being sedentary. If you're just a fat sack of shit, you're probably not going to like your life very much, sitting at a computer all day every day.
And then the thing is too, that has an impact on your psyche too, because then you're gonna think, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm a fat piece of shit. I don't really feel like doing anything. My life is going nowhere. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Yeah, you just have to start stunning, start balling,
start bulling.
The baller mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you could get some sun, touch grass, as they say.
That is unironically a great thing to do.
Feel it on your bare feet, which unfortunately is harder when it's cold, but still do it. Get some sunshine, get some vitamin D.
Are you still doing that in this cold?
Well, I try to, at least in the afternoon or sunset, if it's warm enough outside. If it's like below 60, I'm not going to do it. But if it's 60 or above, I'll do it. Funny story about the D. I was hanging out with a friend today, and we were talking about like investments, and this is a kind of on the money topic as well. And he starts asking this other guy, he's like, what are you doing? You're investing money? He's like, yeah, I'm doing like bonds. And then I was like, yeah, how about CDs? And he's like, what are CDs? And I was like, CD's nuts. I really said it. And see, that joke probably wouldn't have been as funny even a couple of years ago just because of how saturated it was. But you know, we came back to full circle where it's like almost funny again to say it. And he had like that look of like deep shame for even asking. Like he felt bad about himself in that moment, and that pleased me. But you know,
Pause.
I don't even know what CD stands for, and don't say CD's nuts, I swear. But you know, the thing is, I was just telling him about that investment. That I found that funny because I really didn't even know what it stood for. So I had the inclination to again say it stands for this, just again, second time. But I'm like, I won't do it to you. You're a nice guy. I won't do that. Yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Wasn't it the one fellow we were talking to that brought that up first?
Yeah,
Was he talking
well,
about CDs or was that
you're
something
talking
else?
about our bartender friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was bringing up investments. He's like, "Oh yeah, I would do this percentage for this many months in this one." I don't
Thanks
know.
for
My
getting
other
into that.
friend who was talking about the investments, he's like, "Yeah, maybe I should put my money in bonds because he had like a good amount of savings." Apparently, there's this like other guy he works with who's not even like in his position. He's actually probably like lower to level, but he's like some rich guy that apparently just wants to work because he has nothing else to do. But he has like money, like, and he just doesn't want to work, or sorry, he just wants to work. He just doesn't want to do any, like nothing. So he's just like working in like a warehouse. And so he was basically like telling my friend, he's like, well, my friend was telling him, it's like, because he knows he has money. He's like, you know, what should I invest in? Like maybe some bonds or something. And he's like, I have $10,000 to invest. And the guy tells him, oh, I mean, if you want to put a little bit of money into investing, I would do CDs, you know, just a little bit of money. He's like, I just put 100,000 into this bond the other day. You know, it's crazy.
Yo. What is it? You're like the second person within the past month that's mentioned somebody that is in that situation where they don't have to work, but they choose to work anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why you would stay. Like does he live in a suburb, like a suburban area? Why would you do that to yourself if you have money? Like, why would you want to live under a homeowners association and just wake up every day, go to work like a 40-hour week? Like, what? Why would you know? Who wants to do that? Like, most people
I would do
don't. I
that.
feel like if most people had money, they wouldn't. There's a select few that I could see. Okay, fine, yeah, you do it, but like, why?
I would do it for like a week maybe, just for the meme,
Undercover
and then
boss.
I would what?
Just do undercover boss.
Pretty much, but without being a boss, just being rich. So
Or
it's
you
even
could work at
better.
your company in disguise if you were
That's
like wealthy
true.
and had a company.
I mean, I just think it'd be funny. It's almost like crossing the river and seeing how the other people live. Now, I'm saying this, but I'm still someone without a lot of money anyway, so I can't really make that comparison. But um, it's funny you mentioned that because when I was working at my last job, uh, it was like a retail job. There was this guy that showed up around. It was either right before Christmas or right after Christmas, so like right around that area, kind of. Because I remember it was cold and it sucked walking into work. Um, he would show up, he'd do his thing, and he looked like a normal average Joe. And I was talking to my buddy who was also working at the same job there, and he's like, "Oh, you know that one guy?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know who you're talking about because I never bothered to learn anybody's names there because I know I'm not going to be there for a long time." Uh, but anyway, he's like, "Oh yeah, that one guy," and it's the guy I'm talking about beforehand. Yeah, he doesn't have to work here. He just works here because he wants to. And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Yeah, he got into like stock trading or whatever, and he's like loaded. He just doesn't have to work, but he's coming in anyway."
Interesting. I
So I
mean,
don't get it.
again, it's like it's like what do you gain from that? What do you gain from living that life? Like how are you living life to the fullest? How are you in your mind living life to the fullest by doing that? Exactly.
The only argument I could see is like social interaction, but I mean at that point you could do things that are actually fun with social interaction, like go
Buy
to
a
a
bar
buy
and
a
just
what?
work there. Buy a bar and
Yeah,
just and be like the owner and just go around and hang out.
I didn't even think about that. I was just gonna say go to a bar, but that works too.
That too. I mean, go to a restaurant every day. You know, something like that.
Like just general loitering too. Go to
Yeah.
like a shopping center, and I don't know, like anything. I wouldn't
Lounge,
work.
coffee shop, you know, I mean, whatever, man. Just mall, start going, you know, to a park and just work out there in the public, you know, in the sunlight.
Getting that vitamin D. Getting the vitamin
Exactly.
D while you're doing what you like.
Right. I'd go for a lot of walks, you know?
Yo, I miss going out for walks. That was a good time. But yeah, he stayed for like maybe 2 or 3 months, and then he was just gone.
Maybe he really just
That's
wanted that, like, sort of, you know, people on the other side of the river thing for the 2 to 3 months instead of like a week. Maybe he wanted to really feel what it's like every day to have to do that for an extended period. Like 1 week isn't enough to get that or to get that full experience, if anything, of it.
he probably like kept rationalizing it. And he's like, well, a week in, this kind of sucks, but you know, maybe it gets better after a while. And then after the third month, he's just like, yeah, no, this is awful. I don't know why I ever thought I'd do this.
Yeah, maybe actually. Maybe he doesn't, you know, the other guy seems to be liking it apparently, but you know, maybe not like years in. I can't imagine somebody doing that for years.
Yeah, there's just nothing to gain from that, really.
Yeah, it just feels like a waste of time again. Like it's like you're working for somebody else. You're not really getting much out of it other than, and you don't even really care about the paycheck at that point. You're doing menial tasks. Like for what? I mean, I guess it's better than if you have nothing better to do. Like if you literally just have no inclination to do anything other than sit at home or do the job. I mean, I can get it, but you know, how? You don't have anything else you want to do? Like, you know, I get like, you know, they're like, oh, well, you know, people if they retire early, they'll get bored or something. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like there is if you are not a
What?
boring person, if you're not a boring person, there's so much you can do.
I mean, and then okay, first of all, I don't know how. I mean, you could get bored if you're retiring early and you're like, you know, in a horrible like health condition. Then yeah, I get that where you can't really do anything. But I mean, other than that, I don't really see that happening. I mean, like it's literally just doing stuff you want to do whenever you want to do it, however you want to do it.
If you're not at work, do you even really get bored?
Uh, I do.
I generally don't find myself getting bored.
Well, it used to happen with me. This is when I was a bit younger though. I would get really tired, and that would kind of count as boredom. And I'd be like, yeah, this kind of sucks.
Hmm.
I want to do something else. And then like the brief period beforehand where I uh I basically had an extended vacation where I wasn't working. Uh it was fun, but like I was off and nobody else was off. So I was like,
Hmm.
hmm, what am I gonna do?
But even then, like I only really used to get bored like as a kid when there was like I didn't really feel like watching anything else on YouTube and like, you know, I guess there was nobody to hang out with and you know, they were probably busy or something and you know, I was just home. I wasn't really out, you know. But I don't know. I just since I can't remember when it was, but like, you know, I don't know, in the past few years at least, I can't remember the last time I've been bored. Like at least, you know, not when I was like, you know, off work.
It is a lot more difficult to find myself being bored. Like even if I am like not doing anything, I'm always like thinking about something.
Yeah.
So then I'm not bored.
And like
So
I
like
wouldn't really count like, you know, feeling tired or not really feeling great as boredom. It's not boredom. That's something else. That's like, you know, you have I mean they are what they are. They're just not boredom.
yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Like this morning I got up and I was extra tired even though I didn't leave bed for an extended amount of time. Um but I mean I wasn't it's not like I wasn't doing anything. I was like, okay, I got to do this, that and the other before X amount of time. And I mean I was doing stuff. And even when I wasn't doing stuff, I'll find something to do that's like entertaining. Like 2 nights ago, I think it was. This is you know, my this is gooning hours. This is like past
Yo,
3 a.m. And I got to a point where I was like, well, there's nothing on Netflix that's actually good for me to watch. I don't feel like, you know, jamming out the music right now, and I kind of don't want to watch anything on YouTube. So I
hmm.
was sitting there for like 10 minutes thinking like this is the weirdest feeling ever for the first time in my life.
Hmm.
I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I stumbled upon a series of videos that are like pretty interesting and that kind of broke it.
I think it's a matter of like whether you have goals or not. Like, you know, the people without goals are the ones getting bored. Like they just, you know, they really just go through life like waiting for the next thing. It's sort of just like, okay, whenever the next thing comes, I guess it comes and I have to do it. But until then, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like they're
Aimless.
Huh?
Aimless.
I was gonna say NPCs, but
Yeah. Well, I mean who else is aimless? I mean,
fair
I
enough.
guess there's periods in life where you could be aimless and not be an NPC. You're just somebody, that's a part of your story where it's like, well, I'm lost. But you're not like an NPC where it's like, just boop boop boop. I just need for my next assignment. I need my next assignment to be inputted.
The protagonist has not appeared here yet. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. You think there are people like that where they're just waiting for somebody else to be like, it's like, I can't really do anything until this other person comes in and does something. Then I know what to do.
100% there has to be. Yeah.
In what like scenarios do you find these kind of people? Like, are these like employees of somebody else and that the boss is like the protagonist? Is it like somebody that's like, their girlfriend's the protagonist, something like that?
Oh, that sucks.
Well, I know, but I'm just wondering, is that the case?
I've met a few people in like the jobs I've been in where I'm like, yeah, this guy's definitely not an active member of his own story here.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of doing stuff.
Do you think there are people that legitimately don't see themselves as the main character? Like in the sense that like, they're looking at themselves and they're like, I'm really not that significant. I'm not even saying to the point where they're like, oh, I don't matter. Nobody cares about me. Everything's over. It's, I'm not talking about that kind of level, but I'm saying like, yeah, I'm not saying the people that are like in the so over mindset. I'm more so saying people that never really saw themselves as like, like, oh, well, I'm important, or like, my needs matter, or like, actually acting like for themselves. Like they actually care about their interests. They actually have interests. They actually have goals or anything. I guess I'm just talking about literal NPCs, but like what kind of brain process is happening here? Like what kind of mind process is happening for somebody to not say, I'm what matters? To me, at least.
So I can't say. I mean, I feel like it has to exist to some extent, and it's probably like some kind of a neurological issue at that point, because like you don't even really have to think about it. You kind of just acknowledge, yeah, this is me. I kind of need to do something that makes me not like suffer or whatever.
Exactly. Like I live in my own body. Everything I do is to like reduce the unease that I feel in life, or like in day to day.
Is that a Nietzsche thing? The unease thing?
No. Well, I mean, I guess we don't want to get into philosophical terms. Maybe, I don't know. It's where I know it from is like Austrian libertarianism.
Oh, okay. Because I remember somebody brought that up in that context.
I have brought it up before. It is something that like Mises would say, which I don't know how much people that are listening are familiar, but I'm just it's sort of like a human action kind of thing.
I gotcha. So it's not, because I remember somebody brought that up before and they said unease, and I was like, whoa, that sounds like, what, like, are you suffering just from not, doing anything? I wouldn't call it unease, but I guess I get where you're coming from.
The idea being that you are technically not comfortable in your same position when you decide to do something else. Like, because, well, I guess the thought and act of doing something else displays I guess the act itself would displays that you have some sort of discomfort with where you are currently. So like, if not, why wouldn't you just stay in the same position? Right? Like if I am perfectly at ease sitting down, why would I stand up? Why would I decide to do that? Clearly there was something that bothered me about the fact that I was sitting down, or something that made me like, having that urge is like a feeling of like, I prefer to stand up because sitting down would have been less preferable to me.
Okay. Because I think
if you were fine where you were, you just would never do anything. And if you got uncomfortable being fine doing anything or doing the same thing forever, then you clearly have some unease with that itself. So there's no real way to say like, or to, I guess, like oppose that being the case, because you just run into a logical problem.
Yeah. So it seems like it's like kind of the same thing of like, the way I would paint it is like, in order to do X or receive X or gain X, I need to do Y type thing.
Well,
which would imply there's some kind of unease.
It would be the fact that you in your mind believe that doing Y is beneficial for the sake of having X. It's not necessarily that it is the thing that will give you X, but in your mind, it's what you believe will be the case.
Right.
So, I mean, people can be ignorant of what actually delivers results, but they are doing something because they think doing that thing will give them a specific result, or at least a different result in the sense that like they will alleviate themselves of the current result of the action they've taken.
Either a lack of it or a end of something uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I don't know if anybody that, I mean, I'm sure it exists. Somebody that just does not have that um brain process.
Mhm.
Like I know obviously a lot of people wouldn't like explain it like that or be actively aware of it, but like someone that
Yeah.
just does not have that at all, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it would
mean,
have to be. Well, I guess it would necessarily have to be a neurological problem to not have that because every normal functioning human has that. That is just how man's mind operates.
yeah. I was gonna say the closest I could get to that is I'm not gonna drop his name, but I know a buddy of mine who had a bit of a tumble after
Mhm.
high school. Or it might have been during high school. I don't really remember. He's a buddy from like a different town, so I didn't really get to go to school with him for that period. But anyway, I'm hearing from some other buddies like, yeah, he's kind of like he's kind of aimless, bro. He doesn't
Mhm.
really do anything, and it seems to be that the cause of this is his reliance on narcotics, or
Mm.
like, I mean, I don't know. I don't really care if you do drugs or anything like that. But like apparently he did it to a point where people that also did it noticed it too. Like they're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, dude, you've got a problem."
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
you
like
think there's some sort of like rewiring done in the brain or some sort of like incapability to like have some sort of connection now within the mind that like, you know, that like X would mean Y for me. Like he just at this point is like maybe like mentally incapable or incapable of understanding that certain means mean certain ends.
I think it's more of a case of a complete misinterpretation of which action, which would be X, would lead to Y or Y to X, whichever.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is like, so these narcotics have caused him essentially to, well, I don't know. Like, I guess my point was the disconnect between what means what. Like, I guess like he has a lack of ability to associate that doing these actions will lead to these results. And you're saying that, or at least from my understanding, that he just doesn't have any sort of, well, I guess it would be almost the same thing, like where he doesn't have any sort of association between the two.
In a way, no, because it doesn't really do anything. Like every now and then, it seems like he'll try to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll try to go into college, and then he just won't. He'll like get frustrated with like a course, or he can't do it, or whatever, and then he'll be like, "Yeah, let me hit some of this or whatever," and then
Mm,
he'll just not continue with it. And
yeah.
then like,
Well, I
"Oh,
mean,
I want to get a nice job," and then he just won't. He'll just stick in like the same like little rut he's in, and he won't really do anything to like fix the issue of being
yeah.
stuck in that rut.
This could almost
So
be a chemical issue where he doesn't get the same amount of dopamine that people normally would from certain actions. Like it's just not fueling the like the benefit, or I guess the perceived benefit is not there because there's no sort of like chemical output whenever he does something. Like there's no satisfaction or gratification.
are you saying he can't get no satisfaction?
I'm saying he can't get no satisfaction. uh
Yeah,
it may be,
but
I don't know, like maybe his because like the whole thing is I don't know how much you know about like serotonin, but high serotonin is actually not good. And basically I think it's like the antidepressants basically cause serotonin to go up, but I think it was like the US government and some other governments. I forgot exactly how the story goes, but they basically, I know the US government tested it on soldiers, like increasing their serotonin levels, but I don't know that they were the ones to actually manufacture things like Lexapro. I forgot which drug it was exactly that was the one that did this, but basically it was like, I think it was like European countries were basically at first saying we won't administer this to people or something like that because of the issues it presented. And I believe it was the US government that did this, like, or manufactured it. I think it might have been actually been, but I know they administered it to soldiers and it caused the soldiers to be like less, uh, well, I don't know if it was, sorry, I'm trying to, I hope I'm not mixing it up at all, but I know it was that they essentially like, increase serotonin, not as much dopamine, and they basically were very conformant, very complacent, I should say. They would like stay in line, they would follow directions, everything like that. But I don't know if it was they gave them. I don't know if they gave them the SSRIs. I know for a fact what they gave the other ones was LSD, actually, which was supposed to, I think it was increasing dopamine, but not serotonin. I think that's what it was. Okay, you could probably look up the story if you don't know what I'm talking about right now, because I know I messed it up a little bit. It's been like I'm not too great on the details, but basically what I know from this is that they did give the other ones LSD. The ones that took the LSD did not have an increase in serotonin, rather an increase in dopamine. And so what they did was actually they were like a lot more free spirited. They were like less likely to actually follow the orders, like stand in line. They were just sort of like walking around, like, happy, like, and it wasn't something to the point where it's like, oh, they're just doing this because they're high. It was more so they're doing this because like they just don't feel as much of a, like I guess, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't want to say depression, but like some sort of emotion. You said what?
It seems to me like the conclusion is that they don't have a negated response to dopamine, like a blunted reaction to it. Therefore, they're more happy. They're more willing to think outside of the box, stuff like that.
They're more likely to, I guess, they would be more likely to acknowledge the things that would actually make them like reduced in stress, happier. It would probably just, I don't know, like it does seem like it's the case that this guy you're talking about could actually have caused this issue for himself where he just doesn't feel the dopamine hits when he's doing something. And I mean, maybe you can make another argument where it's like, oh, well, since he's, not going to college, maybe he's not complacent. So maybe his dopamine's actually high, but it doesn't seem like he's happy, right? Like this guy.
I mean, he doesn't seem depressed, but I mean, it doesn't seem like he's thrilled about anything, really.
Yeah.
And he's like a completely different person from
like
what
he's
I remember,
apathetic,
too.
no?
It's like weird because he doesn't seem like it, but at the same time, it feels like, I gotta like figure out how to explain this properly. So it's almost like he's a different person, kind of. And while he doesn't seem depressed or anything, it's like he's not doing anything productive at all for the most part.
Yeah. I honestly think like it could still be serotonin, just because I know as well somebody that was talking about like supplementing with like aspirin talked about how he thinks it's like anti-serotonin just because like he had like a sort of new lease on life when he started taking some of it as like a supplement. And he's looking like the Ray Peat diet stuff. Yeah, I know you were probably going to ask that.
Well, I was going to ask, is it the guy I'm thinking of?
It's not the specific guy you're thinking of. This is like a Redditor that talks a lot about Ray Peat. I know, like I was trying to look up, like, cause he's really good. And if anything, the Ray Peat subreddit, like I know, Reddit user, whatever, they actually have a lot of information on there. There's a lot of answers you can get for your questions. There's like an active user base that will tell you this is the answer to these things, like health wise. It's good.
I mean, listen, I know Reddit has a stigma, but they kind of know things.
Well, I mean, you got to be on the good forums. Like Ray Peat, saturated fat is another good one. r/saturated fat is pretty good. They have r/animal based. They have like other stuff like that, and they're all good.
All right, I want to ask you something about that in a bit, but just to tie this prior subject all together. So in this experiment you're talking about, is the other part of it that the soldiers that were given the SRIs or the ones that are more complacent, more I mean, as a soldier should be, I suppose you could say?
I don't know if they
like
specifically
less...
like I think it might have been that I don't know if it was that they gave these ones SSRIs or what, but I remember this being like, because there is a guy that you know about and I know about that was like on a podcast talking about this, and I can't remember the exact story. I mean, I could just name drop him. No, I mean, like he's known. Like I don't think it's really a problem to say his name. No, like a controversial figure.
If it's anything worth like blocking out, I'll just edit it out. It's whatever.
Okay, well, anyway, Georgy Dinkov. I don't really think it's a problem to name him.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
people, it's
whatever.
Know.
I don't know if that's who you were thinking about. Yeah, he does not controversial or anything. He doesn't talk any like negative things. He's good on like diet. He talks about the Ray Peat stuff. Yeah, he was on Paul Saladino's podcast. It was one of the ones they did, and you can find it there as far as the source for the story. But he talked about like,
that's where you're getting it from. Okay, I got to rewatch that then because I watched that like months ago, and I think I told you about it. But
Right,
now
because he
you're
was
just
talking.
finding it out.
He was well. I saw this a little bit back when I watched the episode again. But
Oh, so you rewatched it then?
I had like I didn't watch the full thing the first time I went to it, so I didn't get to that
Okay.
part. But the second time watching it, yeah, I got to that.
All right.
But and that was just like months ago, like or before when I was like kind of not as knowledgeable. So I was kind of like missing some things. I'm like, maybe I should just revisit this. And you know, I got everything when I revisited it, except for like the Randall cycle stuff. But uh he was talking about these soldiers. I don't know, like, because he was mixing in these parts about talking about both LSD and SSRIs. But basically, SSRIs do increase serotonin, and they are more likely to cause those sorts of behaviors. And that was the example he was giving. And then I think his point was that the like LSD in small doses was what was increasing like dopamine. And yeah, that's almost as far as I remember on it. So I guess like, but it would be the case that that yeah, it just causes complacency when you're taking like those antidepressant drugs. Like it was at first acknowledged as something that is a problem, but it just sort of got like sold. You know, there were individuals saying, I don't know if individuals or like, you know, I mean, I guess they would be individuals within governments, but I don't know, other people as well, just kind of saying like, I guess it's like scientists or whatever. Some sort of scientists at some level were saying it was a problem. But yeah.
You know, things are clicking in my mind. I'm gonna I'll keep that under wraps for now. But yeah, I need to revisit that because I do remember him talking about SSRIs, and he was explaining how serotonin is actually not great to have. And
Yeah.
this actually makes sense if you think about it, because a lot of people that I know who, I mean, for whatever reason or another, they either aren't on it now or I don't talk to them anymore for whatever reason. When they're on those kinds of things, they become kind of like an NPC
Like
almost.
drones.
Yeah, they don't really. I mean, they're still there, but it's like very different from when they're not on it.
So my
And
not gay
that's kind of like
roommate.
the issue with the whole like depression thing, because SSRIs, if I remember correctly, they were like antidepressants.
Yeah. I was going to say my not gay roommate, one of them, old one, not
You have to
anymore.
specify.
Roommate. Yeah. Well, he still, you know, even you thought he was just kind of fruity, even though he had a girlfriend. But
oh, that one.
Yeah. The thing
He's got
about
a nice
him,
girlfriend too.
yeah. But
I don't
anyway,
get it.
point being, he has ADHD, and so the psychiatrist or whoever was trying to give him antidepressants, and I think he took them, and I don't know. You know, he was already talking about like libido and stuff, and you know, this I'm sure those did not help, and he's like on Adderall now too. I hear about people getting on Adderall. What's with that?
I can't remember which drug does what. Adderall is like the ADHD thing, right?
Yeah, but it's like it's you know when you take it in a certain dose, like it increases your focus. You know, like I mean, obviously, it's supposed to do that for anybody that takes it. And look, you know, I'm not saying I've never tried Adderall, but all I'm saying is, you know, I'm not confirming or denying, but I'm just saying if I were a person that took it, you know, my experience here would be that
Your hypothetical experience.
Yeah, my hypothetical experience, and not really like as a prescribed person, just as a 1 or 2 time usage, or maybe a little more.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically, you know, theoretically, would be that, you know, it causes, you know, definitely a big amount of like focus. I've never experienced before almost. I mean, I've experienced it, but just not often. You know, it's just crazy how much focus you have. But you lose your hunger. You don't, I know one guy was telling me he like had like these really bad blue balls when he got it. I didn't get that. Hypothetically, allegedly, you know.
Allegedly.
Anyway, allegedly. Yeah, that's the better Michael Jackson. You know, but definitely like a feeling of like chest, like a compression a bit. You know, I don't know if that's a warning signal to never do it again, but you know, hypothetically.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, but anyway, it wasn't the worst thing. It was just like later into it. Maybe the dosage was the issue or something. I don't know. But
Allegedly.
point being, if somebody were to take that all day, every day, you'd have less hunger. And somebody actually told me this, that, you know, she's being prescribed Adderall like 3 times a day, like to take it 3 times a day.
That reminds me. Yeah. I had a buddy of mine, different buddy, that in elementary school, he was diagnosed with ADHD because everybody has ADHD. There's a newsflash for you people. So obviously, you know, they went to the doctor. He got the drugs. I don't remember exactly what it was. I'm pretty sure it was Adderall, actually. But
Maybe Ritalin.
no, it wasn't Ritalin because I only
Okay.
remember Ritalin from South Park. So that must have been like, get rid of Ritalin. Now we have the
Yeah.
new thing, Adderall.
Yeah, Adderall.
But yeah, so he would take that stuff, and before, you know, like I said, this is like one of the examples I was bringing up before. Like before he was on it, he was like real animated. You know, he'd get like real excited about stuff. You know, he'd be a bit restless in class. But I mean, come on,
Mhm.
if you are like under the age of 11, you're going to be actually even like, I think anybody that's in class all day, you're going to be restless to some extent or another for
Yeah.
a load of different reasons besides something mentally wrong with you.
You're just a
Um,
kid.
I mean, yeah,
You have
like the South
energy.
Park episode was perfect on this. Like the video that Chef showed
Yeah.
the teachers and the parents about like the Ritalin. He's like, this is how you get a child to pay attention. The teacher goes up and just yells at them to shut the fuck up and pay
Huh.
attention. And then they start paying attention. But anyway, that's side comment. I guess I'll get canceled for being against the science. But anyway, he would go from being that animated and all that to just being like a brick wall. You like in class, he would
Mhm.
just stare forward. And I mean, his grades were improving, so he was focusing. It seemed like, but like whenever he went to like, you know, recess or he talked around at lunch or, you know, we were talking after school, he didn't really have much to bring to the table. He wasn't really
Yeah.
talking anything. It's not like I'm not saying he's dumb or anything, but like he
Mhm.
literally just did not speak as much as he used to, and he wouldn't eat. He wouldn't eat. Like he'd get lunch at school, and then people would just be like, "Yo, bro, are you gonna eat that?" And he's like, "No." So everybody would just go over to him and like take his food. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I took a few pieces of his food because I mean, sometimes it was like chicken nugget day, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Come on, am I gonna
Dude.
not take some chicken nuggets that are just
Fucking
willingly being
processed
given out?"
chicken balls.
Listen, at the time they were great.
I know they
Uh,
were.
but yeah. So like that's something that I didn't even put together until just now. The fact that he didn't eat anything. Um, I thought it was just like, you know, his like personality or whatever, something like that.
Mhm.
But no, it was probably the fucking drugs.
Yeah, imagine the toll that's taking on your metabolism to just like force you not to eat. Like, I mean, and you don't even feel like eating. That's crazy. It's like suppressive. But you know, the thing, and it's suppressive in other ways, like as we're talking about with the personality. But
The
you
libido
know,
as well.
yeah, the libido. Yeah, exactly. It's like suppressing all your bodily functions to just make you focus. Like at what cost, right? And you know, the thing is like they're just doing this because essentially like the goal here is conformity, like conformity to what the teacher has to say in the lecture and like memorize this material so that you can spit it back out onto a test, get into a college and get into debt, right? And so that's crazy, right? I mean, I'm not the one that's crazy here, right? But
What? Dad?
yeah.
No, I
But anyway,
don't know what that's about.
point being, it's like they're just doing this like literally as sort of a measure to like keep fitting you inside that box, right? Like and this kind of goes with the dopamine thing. Like the dopamine makes you think outside the box. They're trying just like trying to push you back into it. And so basically they're just trying to keep you there as sort of like, you know, obviously we can call it whatever, wage slave or just like tax cattle, you know, what
Oh, I
have
haven't heard
you.
of that one before.
Tax cattle, yeah, that's a good one, right?
That
And
is a good one.
right. And so like they're just trying to keep you essentially like stuck on the idea that this is the way to live. Like it's actually not normal to be wanting to go outside into nature. It's not normal to want to be focusing so much on what you eat and like, you know, making sure that you can, you know, live right and like focusing
Yo.
on your happiness. You know, forget about the
You
happiness, forget about the purpose. Just do this all day every day and you get exactly what you want, which is obviously just a suburban home and a car and you know you know obviously
a
you're gonna
wife
have
that
to
you're
have
kind of interested in, but not really?
yeah, you're gonna have two incomes as well. She's not gonna be able to stay home, and you're gonna have to send those kids to public school all their lives. They're not gonna stay at home with the mom. You know, there's not gonna be any sort of you know passing down of your values or anything. It's really just gonna be the teacher. You know, and you don't really get to pick that. You don't really get to do much about it. You just kind of send your kid to the school they're zoned to in a big yellow bus, and they come back hours later after their day has been wasted away doing that. To eventually again just put that information down on a piece of paper, forget it all, and you know either get into debt like I said with the college, you know go unalive yourself for the country, you know, abroad if you want, or just work fast food, you know, just rev up those fryers all day.
Rev up those fryers.
It's a beautiful life
I
we live.
was gonna say something. I forgot what it was now. Uh Shit.
You were gonna ask me something about the diet stuff, or
yeah, I was gonna get to that, but this was before that. I was still like on the I mean, basically just like induced slavery at that point.
yeah. Chemically
Shit.
induced.
Pretty much. I mean, like, I. Oh, now I remember what I was gonna say. Where you were talking about all, you really shouldn't be looking into this. I can't tell you how many times I got into literally anything, and I'm not gonna toot my own horn too much. I am. I'm into a lot of things, and I get like really deep into them. I'm not autistic, but like I care to learn things to completion, more or
Mhm.
less. So whenever I got like really into politics, maybe that was one I shouldn't have mentioned, but anyway, really into politics, really into philosophy, really into dieting or diet in general, or really
Mhm.
into like the gym or into music or movies or whatever, anything like that. Everybody would be like, well, some of them like would have like better responses. But whenever I got to a point where I said something along the lines of, "Hey, maybe you should think about this. Maybe this isn't really the way things actually are." Like if it's like philosophy or something like that or anything, I'd always get one person that would say, "Oh man, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about this. Why are you like making this so complicated? Why didn't you just
Mhm.
like that kind of shit?" Like one example I'll give you is, uh shit, I don't want to give too much away, but basically, after a night of light drinking, not heavy drinking, this was like the first time I had actually had alcohol too, which was not in the States, by the way. I don't know if I can say that. I
Mhm.
don't think it matters, but anyway, um, so I was like walking to my area after a night at the bar with my roommate, and he's like, "Oh, hold on, bro, I need to smoke a cigarette." Um, real quick. So we're just chilling or whatever. And this is like when I was getting really deep into like philosophy. This is like the first time I started thinking of things like really outside of the box in terms of that, which also blend into politics and all that. And as you know, um, so I'm like talking about this to anybody that could listen because I'm just fascinated by it. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yo, bro, have you ever thought about this like philosophical thing or whatever? And I'm not gonna go into like details of it, but basically like some kind of like metaphysical thing that I thought had just clicked together or was in
Mhm.
the process of having it click together. And I was trying to get like somebody else's thoughts to see like, oh, maybe there's a hole here, or oh yeah, that's interesting, or oh maybe did you think about this or whatever, that kind of shit. Just kind of like any kind of engagement, really. But after I started getting to a certain like conclusion that was being implied, this buddy of mine, he's like, I don't know, bro. I don't really want to talk about that. That's a little too much for me right now. And I don't know. Maybe he was just feeling it because we had some alcohol or whatever. But
Mhm.
I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me not the wrong way about him, but it kind of like made me think, why doesn't anybody want to talk about this shit? This is great.
Yeah, me on the
But
other
yeah,
hand, we're hanging out at the first or for the first time at one of these clubs, and I'm like asking you about the law of identity.
did you do that?
Yeah, true story.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was about like the
Which probably says a
universe and
lot.
and like its origin.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
at the Irish place, right?
no, it was
Oh, like
a
a
club.
club?
Mhm. It was the one that shut
Holy
down.
shit! Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that place is great.
yeah.
That's
Now,
why I don't remember it because that yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. You got really messed up that night. I forgot about that. That was the same night. Yeah. So the thing is, yeah, what you're talking about, that's true. I have a friend who, again, like he'll just kind of give me like I talk about my like sort of nutrition stuff with him, and it's the guy that's like, bro, blah blah blah, and yeah, I don't even have to give any context for who this is anymore. You guys should know who this is at this point. You should just understand this character. But I was talking with him today, and he was telling me about insulin resistance and like how you shouldn't eat like even white rice or like fruit juice and stuff. And he's like, no, man, that's bad for you. Sugar's inherently bad for you. And I used to think that at one point, but I've definitely gotten over that. I've looked at the information and like I've came to the conclusion that no, it's not bad for you. The thing is, and saturated fat isn't bad for you. And these things have been people. These things are things that people have been eating for ages before the rise in like diabetes, the spike in diabetes, the spike in obesity. So I'm like, wait a minute. Doesn't make sense that these are causing insulin resistance. If you want to get a little technical with it, I know that's not too technical, but I don't know what kind of listener we have. So, but anyway, point being, sugar don't make you fat. Butter doesn't make you fat. beef fat doesn't make you fat, animal fat doesn't make you fat, whatever. And so that's the point. And so basically he was trying to, combat me on this and all that. And he just keeps repeating the same thing. He's like, how could you not believe with all this research? And that's all he says. He's like, how could you not believe with all this research? How could you
You're
not
telling me
believe
you don't believe
Yeah.
the science?
He literally,
What?
he almost gets so close to saying the line. And I think he might have before, but he basically just starts repeating the line. And even when I ask him questions on some of this stuff, I'm kind of like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? He's like, well, I have to look into that. And it's fair to at least say I have to look into it rather than just trying to answer the question with no information. So I'll give him that.
Right.
But the thing is, it's almost like you're not acting on enough information, I think, to be talking with me about this, because every time I give you the real information, you start trying to come back with some sort of a basic claim that you've already made without actually really backing it up. And even this thing where he's talking about like, oh, didn't I send you this article? And I'm like, I read the article. At least I read the relevant parts of it so that we could, and I probably read more than he did. But point being, because he was trying to send me like something about the Hadza tribe and what they eat. And I'm like, I know what they eat. I looked it up. Here's what they eat. and so I told him, it's like, dude, it's meat, like mostly meat, like 15 to 20% in calories of honey. Like they eat like 15 to 20% of their calories in honey daily, or I think it's around there, probably on average. They eat berries as like their fruit. The only vegetables they eat, because he's trying to convince me on like vegetables and nuts and all that. I'm like, dude, the only vegetables they eat are these roots called tubers. And the only nuts that one part of them eats, like not even all of them, just like one sect eats, are these nuts that are similar in composition to macadamia nuts. And so, I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about fats, but basically macadamia nuts are like the only real nut that generally is like higher in the monounsaturated fat, which is not as bad as the polyunsaturated fat. And so basically they eat a nut that's similar in composition to that, where it's mainly monounsaturated fat. And so they're not even really eating that many nuts. They're really only eating that nut. And so I told him about this and he's like, oh, I don't know if I believe you. People need nuts and vegetables. Why are they so bad? Why are you not eating them? You need to eat those. And then he started telling me about like tea and how it's good for you. I'm like, dude, tea and nuts, those reduce your free testosterone. And he's all like, well, I don't know about that. I think it's still good. How could you combat the idea that tea is good for, I don't know if it was like anti-inflammation or something like that. And how can you debate that nuts don't have these vitamins or whatever? And so basically, long story short, because I got into the whole thing, basically the whole conversation we had. Point being, it's like, he's just a very much trust the science, bro. And it's unfortunate because as soon as I want to say, hey, why do you think this is the case? He just kind of resorts to the exact same lines, and it's unfortunate because it's like there's no real new conversation being had. It's just kind of the same thing over and over most of the time. So, I commend him for at least trying sometimes to send me some resources on it, and at least not saying completely like I will just speak on whatever I don't know. But it can get a little tiring when people say the same thing over and over. And it's not just him. I know another guy that does it. He literally says like, oh, you think bodybuilders don't know them as much as you? They eat chicken. They eat a lot of chicken. They eat a lot of chicken and rice. You think and broccoli. You don't think that's a good meal to eat 3 times a day, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. There's that. But one last thing I wanted to say. This was something about the antidepressants and the Adderall and all this medication. It's funny because, while we're talking about this, I don't think we should ignore the fact that, like, and I guess we're getting a little philosophical here on this episode, but basically, they try to control you physically in every way they can. And pretty much they put you in a box, like, school is a box, the bus is a box, the workplace is a box, college is a box. It's all boxes that they're trying to, literal like physical rooms that they make you attend and put you in. Yeah. Pulling out the coop at the lot. Tell them fuck 12 bucks flat. Yeah. What if my pronouns are e-er? You know what I mean? But anyway, real point being here, they try to keep you in that containment, that confinement, that sort of like conformity, that regulation, and that lifestyle. And the thing is, they try so hard to do it. There's so many things they do. There are so many regulations. There are so many, like, literally you're mandated by law to send your kids to a school that is state authorized, like have some sort of state mandated education. I guess if you want to talk about like how they screw you over with diet, baby formula is forced to put seed oils in it legally. If you want to start talking about how they just mess you up like body wise, but and metabolically, there's, you have to take your work home from school, not just from work. They make you take your work home from work as well a lot of the time, but from school you have to take work home. you're not allowed to really be free as a kid either. Kids always want to be adults because all the freedom that comes with it, but then adults say, I want to be a kid because of all the freedom that comes with it. And maybe you were just never free, right? Maybe you were just like, maybe that's the case. And so I guess you can get the point of what I'm saying with all these restrictions and ways of forcing people to live. But I think the significant part of this is that I don't think people like it necessarily. It seems like people are in a lot of ways realizing what's happening. I think as there's less of a need to actually be doing these things, and as like working an 8-hour shift every day becomes less and less necessary, and people just have like these 3 to 4 hours of the day where they're doing nothing and they're just waiting to go home because they finished their work. And they don't really have to subsistence farm every single day, all day, every day. You know, it's come to the point where people realize, wait, we're doing a lot of unnecessary things for people that just hate us and want us to just be their sort of like
tax cattle.
Yeah, they're tax cattle. Or I was trying to come up with something else, just their IV, you know, they're adrenochrome suppliers, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, well, we don't have to, you know, we'll just say rich people do that to, you know, sort of not be too edgy with it or anything. But the point here being with the medications, I think that this is actually a point I want to drive home. It's like, this is not just an attack on you physically. It's an attack on you mentally. It's an attack on the mind. It's so much so that they have to like force you physically to do these things, that when people are finally getting upset about it, that when people finally don't feel like they can conform to this, that when people are just getting fed up, they think, you know, there's only one thing we can do. We can change the way they think, and we can make them more complacent. We can make them, you know, perceive these things as not being as bad as they truly are for them. And so, you know, when they're medicating people, it's because they like, this environment that people have been placed in is not like pro-human. It's not anti-stress. It's not, it's not conducive to happy lives. It's not conducive to, you know, like humanity. It's not pro-humanity. And so basically, you know, what I'm saying here is that, you know, the only way they can essentially make people think that's not the case, or make people not have any sort of resistance to it, is just to literally control their brains. Because at the point that you can't effectively force them to do it physically, you have to do it the other way.
Yeah, well said. I can't say I disagree with anything that you just said. I mean, the other thing about this too is like, even on oh shit, I guess we're just gonna dump our politics here. But you sent an article not too long ago where I'm not gonna get into the details of it because it's gonna be boring and a lot of numbers and shit. But where I don't know which publication it was, I don't remember which one it was, but somebody was saying that the essentially that the government in question, I'm not going to say which government it was, that is running a certain economic system is not economically efficient, is a conspiracy theory, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about it. It's one thing to say, oh, well, I don't agree with your opinion, but it's another thing entirely to say this is a conspiracy theory, because you can already see what happens when you label something a conspiracy theory. Once you label it a conspiracy theory, you put people in another box of, well, they're trying to get rid of this, they're trying to do this, they're evil, they hate this, yada yada yada, that kind of bullshit. You put a banner or like a stamp of disapproval on them when they're bringing up like some kind of question or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And because some people don't like the questions that are being brought up, or don't like the conclusions that they're getting to, or whatever. And I mean, to be fair, some of them aren't good conclusions, but I mean, I think if you're asking questions about anything, there's nothing wrong with that to begin with, really. I mean, if unless you're afraid of the answers, which is another problem. Maybe I'm getting too far, but anyway, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But to say,
I was just going to say, like, as vague and specific as possible at the same time. Basically, like, controlling the way people transact with one another, like the way in which they do it, is something that has been called a conspiracy. You know, the idea that people want to be able to freely interact and exchange.
Yeah. Wait. Like, you mean like regulations?
Well, you know, monopolized currency is something in that respect, and all governments do it. So we don't have to point out any single government that does it or which one's calling it a conspiracy to be against it.
I mean, they all regulate anyway too. So
right, you know, I'm just saying, to have a regulated or like monopolized currency that prevents people from, you know, having money that isn't subject to inflation or boom bust or anything like that, any of that,
Taxes.
debt-based currency, or I guess it's just, well, I guess it is currency, not money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, now I remember what I was gonna say. But like, yeah, I mean, because the other thing is it doesn't really prevent anything. It just goes underground, which in theory makes it easier to control. And I mean, in a way, it does for the people that don't have the means or, the right kind of ethos to want to do it in the underground anyway, because that's illegal at that point. That's what underground means, in case you didn't figure it out, people. I mean, but it doesn't go away at all. I mean, I think the best example of this is like the cartels in Mexico. And I mean, the government, I'm pretty sure, is literally unable to make drugs legal for that exact reason, because the cartels have such a stranglehold on the government. But anyway, to go back to like the article, like imagine this. Like imagine you are reading, I don't know, shit, I guess I'll just keep it politically charged. That seems to be the thing. 1984. And you have this certain way of thinking about the message or whatever. I've never read it, so I'm not going to go into the specifics of it. But anyway, I heard it's hypocritical, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, you have this message that you got from the book, and then your teacher says, this actually does happen too, actually, now that I think about it. Your teacher says, no, that's not the way you're supposed to interpret it. That's the wrong interpretation. And you're like, well, actually, I see it this way because X, Y, and Z. You give an actual good argument, and the teacher doesn't actually tell you why it's wrong. They're just like, no, that's wrong. This is actually what the author wanted you to think about it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, regardless of what the author thought I wanted to think about it or not, I have this interpretation of it, and you can't seem to prove me wrong. But then they can't prove you wrong. So then they just say, well, you're not allowed to think that because it's conspiratorial or whatever. It's some kind of, it doesn't really matter what the word is. It's conspiracy theory. It's, I don't know, anti whatever. It's this kind of it's against that. This is the one I remember reading in a book of a person I will not mention. Shit, that makes it sound worse than it is. It was a book. It was a philosophical book, but I feel like I need to give a disclaimer now. It's nothing like banned or anything like that, people. Relax. But they brought up the word of, not divisive, but it was something along those lines, but in like a political context. Not divisive, but whatever. For the purposes of this argument, divisive works. The argument that, oh, well, you can't say this, that, and the other. This is divisive. And it's like, okay, so what does it matter if it's divisive? If it's right, it's right. Like, if I say, I don't know, like, for example, anything can be really divisive if you think about it. If I go up to somebody and I say, well, you shouldn't really be eating chicken because X, Y, and Z and this, that, and the other. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I've heard somebody else say that chicken is good. That's divisive at that point. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the fact that I disagree with them or they disagree with me. It just means that there is friction there, that we disagree on a thing. And if you're acting honestly and in good faith, then you can realistically come to a objective answer on that. But when you start saying that because you're divisive, you're not allowed to talk about a certain thing or bring a certain point of view about a certain thing, then that's when you get to the point where it's like, okay, why don't you want me to talk about it? It's like a self-defeating tactic.
Yeah.
But then again, you know how it works. Every time something like that gets brought up, it's like, oh, well, that's actually wrong because the experts said this. And, experts can't be bought. Experts can't be manipulated or anything, because that just doesn't happen. It's impossible. They're experts. Why would they do that? Don't look into what happened with the sugar industry in the 60s. You won't find anything there. But, yeah. It's just kind of, it's so blatantly transparent too that it gets to the point where it's like the only way it makes sense to most people is going back to like and I'll go back to the diet thing after we're done with this, but it is like the diet thing, because you have to be in a certain state of mind to just not see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I tell you something like, oh, haven't you ever thought about this and that way and the other? And you're like, well, I don't know, bro. This person says this, and there are X credentials or whatever and whatnot. And credentials aren't useless, to be fair, but I mean, you need to understand what the credentials mean, what could influence the conclusions. That you can't take anything at face value, basically.
Yeah.
But most people do that, is a thing. Like, if I say anything that's against the norm about anything whatsoever, even something as simple as like, oh, well, you shouldn't tune your guitar that way because it does this, that, and the other. And they're like, well, actually, this, that, and it. Like, you need to actually be an honest arguer. And it seems like, not to throw any shade at your buddy, but like he's kind of a good example of that. He's kind of just going with the flow.
Yeah. Maybe they're poofinated.
Poofinated?
Yeah, too many seed
Oh,
oils.
right. I keep forgetting that acronym. But yeah, I wanted to ask you on the diet thing. Are you like full peat now? Are you like, because I figure like animal based and peat are kind of like really close to each other anyway. But I mean, you've been like going hard on the peat stuff lately.
Yeah, it was
So
definitely a
how's that?
gateway drug.
It seems
uh,
like it because I
you know,
mean, the stuff you showed me does not seem, wrong
mhm.
or like unfounded.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's like a huge amount of like discrepancy between the two, like to the point where you can't technically be in some form of both at the same time necessarily. I think the thing is here that like, peating as you would call it, right? I know you like
Peating off.
right, exactly. Uh it's it's not something that's incredibly restrictive. It's more so like advice on different things you could be doing for your health and sort of just trying to use that holistic sort of understanding to just modify the things within your life, avoid toxins, avoid stress. And I mean, the animal based diet, like, it's it's more so just talking about like, the foods with toxins in them for the most part, or like foods with defense chemicals, foods that are causing insulin resistance, like so on and so forth. And there's an overlap definitely in the foods that are encouraged to be eaten. There's just maybe a difference in the amount of let's say maybe muscle meat that you're told you should be eating, or the amount of fat versus carbs, or
I was gonna
what.
I was gonna interject real quick. The only difference I know of it seems to be like the sugar thing, really.
Mhm.
Like the amount of
Well,
sugar, if sugar's good or not.
the thing is, there are like medications that Pete would have said, like, are beneficial, like aspirin, for example. I don't really think Paul Saladino would, be a huge, like, like, oh, take aspirin for this reason. And, I don't necessarily think he would just like, start saying like, do that. I would say, I guess like other things being like, well, I mean, I guess some things I would supplement as well, like L-theanine for better sleep. Baking soda, you take some of that, you get better sleep from the carbonation, and it's just better for your brain. And there are other things like that. There's like a lot of different things you can read that Pete has talked about. I think one of the biggest things is like the seed oils is just like a huge overlap, because like PUFAs, like polyunsaturated fats, are just something that like it's like neither camp is going to like those at all. Like they think those are responsible for some of the greatest issues right now with human health. And so, I mean, that's good. That there's that. I guess, the only real difference for me as far as what I've been doing, other than like taking, some, to an extent, not like a bunch of supplements, but just finding the right ones that would, if anything, help, the function of my organs, thyroid, liver, whatever. And I guess like that would come down to like certain supplements maybe that I would take to a limited extent, depending on what they are. Just natural things, not anything that's like processed or anything. Just increasing the amount of sugar in my diet. And so yeah, I really don't think it's like radically different or anything. I came to the understanding I came to beforehand on a lot of things, other than just other than just like the macronutrient breakdown and what necessarily like is the worst thing for you, as far as like, I was kind of avoiding white rice some more. I was kind of avoiding potatoes some more, but I don't think they're like too much to be avoided, if anything, things like that.
I just ate white rice.
Yeah, so did I actually. It's funny. I went to World of Beer and I got the steak frites. And
Yeah.
the
You guys have one over there?
they're everywhere.
I didn't know that. That's the only one I know of.
No, there's
It's a good dish though.
Yeah. I got that. I didn't want the broccoli with it. I got the rice, but I said I want 2 servings of rice. Can I just get 2 servings of rice? Because it comes with broccoli and another side. Can I get 2 servings of rice? And then she brings out fries. I'm like, what is this? And so, I guess she interpreted fries from rice, because they kind of, of rice, 2 servings of rice, of fries, of fries. She kind of had that understanding.
Fries?
I guess she hears fries a lot more. And so I didn't get the rice. And then I was kind of like, well, this doesn't seem right. I asked for rice, and it was a different lady giving the food out actually, and she was like, well, I'm sorry about that. And then the other lady comes out and she's like, oh, I'm sorry I did that. I don't know why she personally came out and apologized, maybe for the tip or something. She was a good waitress, but decent.
Rating?
Not the fastest on the actual, like, coming back and asking if we're good on everything, especially since, with the boys and they're getting some drinks and all that. It's like, not the absolute fastest, but she was all right. Decent. Okay. But yeah, no, I got the correct side dish after. I don't know if it was 2 servings of rice, because I paid for 2 sides. That's what comes with the meal.
Do they not put them in the ramekins? Because over here they put them in the ramekins, so you get 2 servings.
Well, this was like I don't know exactly what it was. Kind of like a small bowl, kind of. It wasn't really a bowl. It was like a cylinder. It was just a white cylinder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
No, well, I mean, that was pretty much it on that.
Oh.
What was I saying right before that? As far as why I even brought the World of Beer thing up?
White rice isn't that much of an issue anymore.
Oh yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah. I got you. Yeah, I don't know. I went to another restaurant as well, like the day before, which was yesterday. I was kind of binging the restaurant stuff, and I don't get anything too bad. I got lamb chops actually last night. They were really nice. The British guy was my server, but he was cool. He was cool. Yeah. And he recommended the lamb chops. I said, what do you think between the lamb chops and the shank? And he's like, yeah, I love the chops, man. Best in this area. You don't usually find
I love the chops, mate.
Yeah.
Best in the area.
Yeah, kind of like that. And yeah, no, I mean, that was good. I got him medium rare, and even the lamb. I got the steak rare, but I got the lamb medium rare, and he just fist bumps me. He's like putting his fist out as soon as I say it. I just bump him, and he's like, yeah, I cannot eat anything above medium.
Damn, that guy sounds cool. And he's British.
He was British, but he was cool. He was a cool guy. He's like the coolest British guy I've probably met in my life.
Damn. Wait, okay, hold on. Was he British or was he Australian?
No, he's British.
You can tell the difference.
From the United Kingdom.
No, did you ask or something? Oh, okay.
He just said so. I think he was talking about when he lived there or something. But he definitely didn't have an Australian accent.
Yeah, they're a lot less intelligible, I find.
Yeah.
Damn, I need to go to that World of Beer.
No, this was, the Lamb Shanks was different place. Right. I don't know if I wouldn't name drop. I think that one's a little bit more local, so I'm not going to name drop that one. Not exactly sure if that's a chain or what.
All right, well, maybe I'll be in the area. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, we can check that place out. It wasn't the most pricey, but it was a little bit pricey. I don't know.
My estimation of food prices is wildly out of sync with my actual budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at a dish that's like $30 and I look, well, it's steak and lamb. What am I not going to order it? And I mean, shit. Basically, I'll just say this. I'm not in the most financially stable position right now. But I'm going to get the fucking steak. I mean, the fuck.
Yeah, honestly, I find it's better, of a use to at least just put up a little bit more money in to feel better about what I'm ordering, and also to feel better physically after I eat it.
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. After I started cutting out starches entirely, I don't really feel bloated anymore, like at all.
Yeah, I mean,
well, not entirely. I still eat rice, but
yeah. And potatoes, right? But you're boiling them. It's better. You're cooking them in saturated fat, like butter, a lot of the time. So it's helping.
Well, what I'll do is I'll make bacon and I'll cook them in the lard, because the lard adds a lot of nice flavors there. But what I'll do is throw in some coconut oil and or butter with the lard, just to make sure it's like extra cooked in that, because lard has its issues. But I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, at that point, you're at least eating foods that And I noticed that too, honestly, because I don't know exactly what I was eating. I don't remember. I know I was eating bread. And that might have been what did it. I mean, other than some processed foods, like other processed foods, but I definitely had like crashes after I would eat lunch, especially, or even food in general. I would kind of have like a little bit of a crash. I had, also, fullness, bloating, fullness more than I really ever have recently, or I guess have recently. I don't know why I'd say ever have, but I really like the bloating I would feel, like the fullness would be just not unbearable, but it would just be far more uncomfortable. Like it wouldn't feel good to have eaten, not necessarily like, as much as I could possibly eat, just to have eaten like a good amount, a hearty amount of food. It just did not feel good.
Yeah, it's weird too because you don't notice it until you stop having it. So like for example, like a good example is like Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner or any kind of thing where you eat a lot.
Mhm.
And I mean, you'll feel full if it's like a lot of protein or whatever, but you won't feel like sick to your stomach or like sleepy afterwards when
Mhm.
you start cutting out bread and stuff like that. I went to get like make some dinner one night and I the place where I'm living had cookies there. So I was like, you know what? I usually don't eat cookies. Let me see how these taste. I had one cookie, and then I made my usual thing, which was like eggs and like some apples. Nothing too fancy. Um, so I have my eggs and my apples, and afterwards I feel like so bloated and like out of nowhere, and I'm like tired, and I feel like not nauseous, but kind of getting to that feeling. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
After like eating something like that, and I'm like, holy shit, this is one cookie. I know it's not the eggs and the apples because I eat that pretty much every day, more or less. So it had to be the cookie.
Mhm.
So it's one cookie, and I mean, like every now and then I'll have like a cheeseburger or whatever, uh, and I'll eat the bread, and it's like, it can't be the worst thing. It's mostly meat usually, but that cookie like put me out of commission for the entire night. That's it. All
Mhm.
it took.
Yeah, I don't really eat the bread. If I'm getting a burger, I'll just get it no bread. I did have a little bit of cake the other day because my friend had a birthday, and I just had a small piece. I was like, I didn't really want much at all. I didn't even eat the whole thing I was given. Like it was very small. But I also ate a cupcake that somebody made, and it was not too big either. It was like one of
You're
those
telling me you
little,
went to find a cupcake?
huh?
You were looking for a cupcake.
Oh, it was given to me. Okay, I was not offered it. I didn't know when I was going there that I'd get a cupcake even. So,
Oh, so you weren't going there for the cupcake. You're going
no,
there for something else then.
to have friendship with nice people that are of age.
All right.
Go on, proceed. uh, so I had the cupcake as well. It was like a whiskey cupcake. It had some whiskey infused,
What the
and
fuck?
yeah. Point being, I don't know. It might have been these two things because that's the only odd thing I ate that day. My digestion was off. Like I had like stool issues. I don't want to go too in depth, but man, it was not great.
You're
And
having
that's the
trouble
only,
sitting down on your stool.
sure. But that was the only weird thing. Well, those were the only two weird things that I like abnormal things that I had eaten. So yeah, I don't know. It might have been the fact that there's like gluten in them and the starch in them. So yeah, that was
The
probably the
whiskey,
issue.
maybe.
I didn't really have any like crash or anything because it really wasn't a big amount. But yeah, no, I think those were the things that messed me up.
Real shame.
Yeah. So there's no such thing as a cheat day.
Yeah, you suffer.
They're not great. They don't make me feel good, and there's no food that I miss so much that it's like, wow, I really wish I could eat this. It's worth anything I'm putting up with to have this. It's I don't really feel that anymore.
I kind of do for certain things.
Mhm.
Let's say for the burgers, for example. I just don't trust people to like know what I'm saying or like
Mhm.
understand what I'm ordering enough to say no bread or whatever, and they'll fuck it up and give me something
Mm.
entirely different or whatever.
Yeah, I thought about
Um,
that too.
I maybe should just start going for it now because I mean, whenever I eat a burger, I don't know if it's the fat from the beef like counteracting it or whatever, but I don't feel as bad if it's like on a
Mm.
burger. But if it's like bread in any other context, then it kind of hits me hard. Um, but shit, I completely forgot what I was gonna say now. This is bad, man. I'm losing my memory over here.
Huh.
Uh,
Gotta lay off the drinks.
I haven't even had any drinks. There
No, it's
was
the
one
after effects.
day
Come on.
where I woke up and I felt like I had a hangover, and I was like, "This is the fucking weirdest shit ever." Because I haven't had a drink in like at least 2 weeks, and I haven't had any kind of binge drinking session in like 2 months, and I feel like shit. It got like better as the day
More
progressed,
like 1 month.
obviously, but well, I'm like carrying a few zeros there. Uh, but yeah, I got better over time, and I think it was just because I stayed up till like 6 in the morning that day.
Mm.
Yeah, so that wasn't great. But I mean, I can't fix it at this point. Not anymore. Not if I like dedicated effort that sucks because then I have to go through a few days of sleep deprivation.
You have to continue backtracking by a half hour until you can get back to normal.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah. I mean,
it's very erratic.
Within the half hour window, you go to sleep. Like the same half hour window as tonight, or as last night, you'd go to sleep tonight, but you try to get to bed like a half hour earlier. Do that. If you can start doing it consistently, fine, but you'd kind of want to keep trying to go back like in a moderate rate of just a half hour backward every night, half hour wake up earlier every day. It's not going to work to do.
So I'd be like losing like an hour of sleep.
You wouldn't be losing an hour of sleep. You would just be going to bed half an hour earlier and waking up half an hour earlier.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That is a much more attractive method than the one that I thought I was going to have to do, which is basically either well, the one I was trying to do was like just go to bed at the time I've been going to bed and then just force myself to wake up early anyway. Or going a full day without sleeping at all and then just going to sleep at whatever time I want. But I've done something similar to that where I had like maybe an hour of sleep and I stayed up for the rest of the day, and it didn't really work that well. So
yeah, I have done similar while traveling. I had one night where I just didn't go to bed except for like a couple 15-minute naps. Like 2 15-minute naps. It was like 1 15-minute nap pretty late when I was like dozing off a little bit, and then I wake back up and then I just stay awake, and then I just felt it again, so I went to bed for another 15 minutes and that was fine. But then I was traveling, so I got on the plane and I just fell right asleep. It was like a 2-hour flight. Whole thing was asleep. I had like this burger and fries that I got. They fortunately, at least they were frying in olive oil, which is not a great improvement. Even because, you know, if you have the same oil in the fryers over and over and over, the oxidization just makes it not even really worth it to be eating the food compared to other food that's fried. But whatever, fine. I just went for it. I was like, you know what, I'll have this. At least
it's not frying in olive oil.
It's some like Cloud Burger or something. I can't remember. This was at I was in DC. This was like the DC airport, I think it was. Anyway,
because you can't even really fry in olive oil like that.
That's what they were doing.
Smoke point. I mean, I've heard that's kind of bullshit too. I've heard conflicting opinions on the smoke point of olive oil and all that. I mean, either way, I'm trying to avoid it now. But
it could have also been like watered down olive oil. I mean, like watered down as in like other seed oils.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, point being, that's what I got. That's what I ate. And I had a bag of it. Didn't finish the full thing. For some reason, I guess it might have been the lack of sleep or something that was making me not hungry. Or maybe it was that weekend. I was also depriving myself of food because they had so many bad options when I was traveling that I just stopped eating, which is probably worse than eating the food. It might be. Yeah, I know. So like the first day, I had an omelet in the morning, but then I didn't eat until night. And all I ate at night was like some shrimp and a little bit of cheese. And I had 3 Long Islands after that. This was that story. I had 3 Long Islands after that, blacked out, vomited a lot. And then the next day I was definitely shaking. I had coffee.
Yo, what the fuck?
I had coffee and I can't even remember if I ate anything that morning. I think I just had coffee, and I think I didn't really eat most of the day. I think they had chicken nuggets out in the afternoon and I just started devouring those. Might have been that.
What, like the event or whatever?
Well, no, I think that night they actually had a different lunch and dinner. I think it might have been I actually had some decent options, but barely. So I had a little bit of chicken, like mashed potato, and like might have eaten a little bit of broccoli. I don't remember. Something like that. But I can't even remember what the lunch was. The next day they had these chicken nuggets. It was like we were just in a conference room kind of thing, and it was like with the pizza. So it was like fried chicken nuggets from like Domino's or Pizza Hut or something. Dude, oh my God, I devoured so many of those. Nobody else was touching them, so I just ate like a whole plate of that stuff, and that was the best feeling I had that weekend. And other than the burger, but yeah, I really just didn't eat much that weekend. Huh?
Not the drinking session?
That was terrible. Well, I mean, it wasn't terrible while it was happening, but afterward, dude, it was abysmal. I barely got sleep that night. Honestly, I went to bed and I woke back up and it felt like I didn't get any sleep whatsoever, but it had been like 4 hours or something like that.
Yeah, that's how it works.
No, it felt like I had no sleep. It's never been that bad. That is the worst it has ever been for me, man. That is the worst experience I've ever had. I've never blacked out other than that. It was terrible. It was terrible.
That's usually whenever we... How many? It's been a few times.
Wait. I had to stop drinking for like a month.
You became... Amish for a month. Wait, yeah, they
I
don't
just
drink
couldn't.
alcohol.
I just couldn't. And the first thing I had after a month was like one small, um, forgot what it was. It was like one of those seltzers. That was it.
Yeah, chick
There was
drinks.
something wrong with me after that for a little bit. I needed to recover. My body was like, no, you are not okay health wise. This was the worst thing you've probably done for your health ever. Yeah, it was not great.
I was gonna say, the few times when we've been out on like 3-day binges, by the third day, that's usually how I'm feeling.
But I've never felt like that doing that. This was just another feeling. I actually felt bad. Like this, usually when we do it, it's like, okay, I feel a little bit like I need some time away. Maybe I just need to go back to normal, just resume business as usual. But it's never like I am ill, I am dying. This is it. Yeah, it was pretty terrible. But I lived, and it wasn't the worst experience ever, honestly, as far as I know I made it out to be how terrible it was, but the experience itself going up there, talking to people, it was all fine. It was really just the health aspect of it that sucked. And I hope to not relive that again because I've learned how to eat better when traveling, at least if I'm buying my own food, if I can get beef jerky, if I can get orange juice, if I can get milk, stuff like that. Like if I can just have those on hand, I'll be okay. I'll be better,
That reminds me, I was watching a reel by Saladino the other day, and I remember we went to McDonald's one time, me and my buddy of mine, and my buddy was like, "Oh, let me get a drink," and he got milk, and I was like, "Yeah, because milk is great for you." And in the Saladino video, he was saying that McDonald's adds something to their milk for some fucking reason that I can't even
Carrageenan.
fathom. Why?
It was
Bro,
carrageenan.
it's milk.
Yeah, it's not even like a cream.
Yeah, like that's another thing too. I keep drinking the cream anyway because I mean I can't really find any other option besides like the really tiny ones. So I'm just gonna like take my chances with it for as long as possible until I can find a better substitute. But why are you? Could you not ruin the only good thing there is to drink and eat? Like what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
You're making
Yeah.
it so much more difficult to not die at 60.
Yeah. Well, they do that with the seed oils. That's something that it's really hard to get away from wherever you're going, unless you're getting like meat. If you're getting red meat, then it's easier. But if you're getting anything else, especially anything fried at all, it's just terrible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's another reason why I'm thinking, well, packing my bags and getting out of here once I can.
Yeah, let's
Because
let's do that.
it's really just, I mean, I think they still use it to some extent, like elsewhere, but it's not nearly as bad as it is here in like
Yeah,
other countries. And or
it's
at
not
the
going to
very
be like
least, you can like,
20% of your diet if you're eating the average food.
yeah, pretty much. It, damn, 20%.
I think it's
That's
estimated like about like Americans, like at least the ones who eat food to where they get obese have like a 20% amount of like seed oils as their diet. Like all the
that
canola
makes
oil,
sense.
obviously, and they eat a lot of ranch. Ranch is just like pure canola oil, or I think
Is it
it's
really?
soybean oil. Sorry, soybean oil. Like the Chick-fil-A sauces also are like pure soybean oil. If you go to like get I don't know if it's the Italian sauce or whatever Italian dressing. I don't know if that I don't know if that's canola oil or what, or if it's soybean oil, one or the other. I mean,
Yeah.
mayo is like pure soybean oil.
Yeah,
So
mayonnaise is pretty much exclusively seed oils.
yeah, so I mean, if you're putting any condiments on your food, you got to be watching out for that. You could just be eating a lot more than you think you are. And I mean, if you're frying any food, that's obviously going to absorb in the food, and you're eating a lot of that as well. If you're really using it to cook it all, you're getting additional on top of that. Like it's some extra, right? So yeah, I mean, any processed foods you eat could have. So, I mean, they're going to likely have some in there. So I mean, yeah, you're getting a pretty high dosage of that if you're just eating like you don't know what you're eating. If you just eat from any option available, in America, you're probably going to get a lot more than you think.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is too, like, even when you buy stuff, like, I mean, that's usually the safer route because it's kind of harder for that to like sleep in there. But if you're buying like processed stuff and stuff like that, like cereal, anything in a box or like
Mm-hmm.
anything in plastic, I mean, you're pretty much like poisoning yourself slowly. But I
Yeah.
feel like in other countries, even that kind of stuff, which still isn't great for you, has seems to be a lot less of a toxin to you.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience. I could be entirely wrong, but
Yeah, well, I mean, there are certain countries where they just don't use certain chemicals or like ways of processing things
Yeah,
compared to
what
the
the
U.S.
fuck, man? Like, carrageenan in my cream? Come on, bro. It's like a one ingredient thing, and you had to add like three for some reason. But yeah, like I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, most other countries don't have an obesity rate like the U.S. and Canada. Or I'm not sure. I think Canada's kind of like on par with us. I'm not sure,
Hmm.
but yeah,
I mean, Mexicans use a lot of oil now. At least the ones here, they use a lot of it for their like food trucks and cooking.
yeah,
Like literally, we went to a food truck where it's like a Mexican place. It's like, hey, we use vegetable oil here. Like everything's fried in vegetable oil. Everything's used vegetable. I mean, at least they put the sign there so I could leave.
yeah.
I mean, I'm
That was
pretty.
on
Do
Cinco
they
de
do
Mayo
that?
too.
Do they do that so that some people who are like vegan will look at it and think I want to eat here now? Like at least they're not doing lard or anything.
I think that's probably the reason why. Yeah,
Yeah, because I
but I
know
mean, it's
like
not like Mexican food is devoid of meat. So
I have some family who's not like I mean, a lot of my family isn't actually like from where I am at least. But anyway, one part of my family is like Hispanic, right? And so what
you forget
what I
the
was
term for Hispanic.
well, perhaps I did. Now, what I was told is that they used to like actually like fry stuff in lard. Like they would use lard for like cooking and like they would save it and they like fry stuff in it. Even the fried stuff would just be lard.
That's kind of what I do now. Whenever I like cook anything, well, it's almost always bacon. And like for whatever reason, they've been like really fatty pieces now. So I'll have like an excess of lard and I'll just let it sit there until I
Yeah.
need to cook again.
And that has been a tradition that has been lost. And I mean, if you look at the people that are in question that are of that ethnicity or I guess a subsection of Hispanic, they are more obese now. So shocker, they have more diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah,
They also have other traits that I'm not going to go into, which is probably directly related to seed oil consumption.
loud, annoying.
Well, I mean that's like a subsection of the other traits I was talking about, but yeah, that
Yeah.
too. But yeah, I gotta start like doing some research because I mean it's not gonna be anytime soon, obviously, but eventually I will find a place where I can just go into a restaurant and order any meat dish and not feel like I'm taking a gamble, and it'll be great. I think even the
Yeah.
British are like better than us in that regard too. I mean, I know the memes of their food being shit, which uh yeah, it doesn't look great, but at least they're not putting carrageenan in the cream. I don't
Mm.
think I could be wrong in that.
I mean, if you're eating shepherd's pie, that's probably not the worst thing because it's what meat and potatoes.
Pretty much. You know, here's the thing. There used to be like a pub, like a British pub, like kind of restaurant around where I am, and I was walking around like the area where it used to be just like a few days ago, and it's gone now, which is really funny. Um, but me and my buddies, we went there for one time, and it was like British themed, food and all that, and it wasn't bad. It was just kind of mid.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it could be like they just didn't choose like they chose dishes that only they knew that Americans would actually like. That could also be part of it. So I don't know. I mean,
Mm.
obviously it didn't work since they're not there anymore though. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So I guess I mean I could just come up with a new thing that I could talk about. Here's something. Here's an interesting piece of trivia. Here's a quick anecdote. Here's a little something. Well,
A little
actually, before
nugget of
I forget about
entertainment.
that, here's what something that happened today instead of the other day. I was going to talk about something for the other day, but here's this first. Today, I got a like I was at this sort of outlet area, like mall kind of thing, outdoor. There was a lady selling coconuts. Well, there were two carts doing this, but there was one where I went and shopped and they were selling coconuts that, they're fresh. They just take the coconut, stick it with like this metal piece of thing and give it to you to drink out of. It's just a
Nice.
fresh coconut. And that was nice. It was refreshing. I felt great. I had to piss after because of all the water, but man, was it good.
Did you like the meat after or
It was not at the point where you could really eat because it's like the green one. where
Oh,
it's
okay.
like kind of hard inside. I opened it. I like smashed it on the ground after I finished the water to, well, actually, I kind of knocked it on the curb quite a bit to open it. Then I tried this like fibrous piece inside of it, spit it out because it tasted good at first, but then it was like starchy almost. Like it had that feeling of like drying out your mouth. I spit it out. And then I split it completely in half. Well, I already did that actually. But then I just felt the inside and it just felt too hard. So I just left it there. Well, it was on like a mulch, like it wasn't like on the concrete. Like I left it in the mulchy area so it could deteriorate into the earth instead of going to a landfill, which, you could call it littering, but it's organic material.
No, no. I mean, does anybody? Yeah. I mean, I throw banana peels in like the woods because I mean,
Well, this was a parking
like,
lot.
it's grassy enough.
I'm helping. I'm helping the growth of the grass instead of, them just not doing anything with it.
Before we get into that next anecdote, somebody sent like a meme, something like a screenshot from 4chan because those ones are always good.
Mhm.
Somebody that was like paying like $200 to ship their garbage to India
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of
I saw that. And he said like he's like pretty much like there's this service. Well, I guess it's like they do like the collective sort of like shipments to other countries. And he was having his trash like he was like basically compacting it and putting it in small boxes to send to India, like random addresses. And apparently the funny part is it's like it costs like 125 for his normal trash. And he's like, yeah, even though I'm paying $75 more for it, it's worth it. Like worth it to do what? He's paying more.
I mean, I think I would do that just because of the meme value.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest.
If it were cheaper, I would easily do it because then I wouldn't have to pay for the trash service, and that's good.
And you get the joy of sending your garbage to India.
Do you think they could use that for anything? Like, I mean, I guess not all of India is like extremely, well, they are kind of impoverished. I mean, think about it, but
it's not a great place to live.
Yeah. Do you think they have any use? Because he's compacting it. He's kind of taking the use out of anything that could be in there. But is there really going to be anything useful in the trash if it's trash? Like, is he really going to throw away valuables, anything they could resell? Probably not.
Probably not, no.
Like if it were scraps of like metal or something, then they could use that at least. But no, he's really giving them useless blocks of trash. Just, I mean, well, maybe, didn't I talk about this? Or we could just send like our garbage to third world countries. I talked about this last time with our boy John. I don't see why this is any different aside from the fact that it costs a little more. If it costs less, great idea. If it costs more, who's going to want to do it? Who's going to be incentivized to do it other than people who are like, well, I really just don't like Pajits.
I mean, listen, I'm not against the Indian people, but I'm not exactly, I mean, the country itself, it's not great. So,
okay.
I don't know where I'm going with that. You can extrapolate whatever you want from that, but I'm just going to put that out there.
So here's the story. Here's the other story. This is from the same night as the British guy server. Here's how it goes. So I walk in with my buddy and we sit down. And I mean, I think the server had already asked us about the drinks. Now there's this girl, this young lady, server or waitress or whatever. She comes up to the table. She didn't really she wasn't there to like order drink or get our drink orders or anything. The guy already did that. This was unrelated. She comes up to us. She says, because I had this trench coat, right? This nice I think it was like from Men's Warehouse. I don't remember the exact brand. But she basically says like, oh, you look like a magician. Interesting. I don't know where she got the magician from. But then she's like, yeah, I noticed when you were walking in, I couldn't help but notice it. And then she says, what does she say? No, I say, so what's my act? Right. And then she goes, oh, that's actually pretty creative. Usually people just say, oh, thank you for the compliment or whatever. And then, they're not really thinking much about it. But, she's like, but then she says like, oh, my act could be like, making people disappear or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, conversation goes like that, And so I'm kind of like, yeah, well, that's interesting that she did that. My friend's like, yeah, she was hitting on you. So here's the interesting part. I didn't get her name or anything, right? Well, I mean, kind of, I didn't like ask her or anything, but here's the interesting part. So I'm kind of like, well, when my server tells us about the sort of review thing for the for the place. He gives us his name and he says, yeah, look me up on the reviews, leave a review with my name in it. So I'm thinking, logically speaking, right? If I really wanted to hit this chick up, her name's probably there on the reviews, right? Like as a waitress. So I'm like, do I do it? Do I dare? Right? So I look it up. It's pretty easy. You can look up, like the restaurant's Instagram and you can see the followers. And so I happened to stumble upon her pretty quickly, right? It wasn't really any research or anything, nothing intricate, but I found her. So I was like, let me follow her, accepts the follow request within the same day. And so now I'm kind of like, I'm telling my friend about it. He's like, well, I don't know. I had a girl do that to me when I was working at like a grocery store. I didn't like it. He thought, that's kind of weird. I'm like, well, it's pretty readily available. It's like looking somebody up in a phone book. It's not really like, I'm like scouring the internet to find this person. I pretty much just did a quick Instagram search just to see if I could find it. And I did. So, my thing is, he's like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if you should really hit her up. Now, my question is, should I? Since all that happened.
Can I get a number?
Out of 10. Dude, she actually looks really good. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'd rate her. Shit. I guess. I obviously can't go for the 10. That's too high. Now, I would above a 7, not a 9. I would say. I want to say like a. Can I do halves? Can I do like 7.5?
I guess you could do that. Yeah.
I'll put that. That's a pretty good rating to give for how much I saw of her face and body.
What was like the uniform? Was it like covered up or something?
It was. They were all wearing sort of like a professional like shirt, like button down, and then black pants.
That's exactly what I was thinking of too.
Now, but I haven't said anything. Like I haven't messaged anything, but she did accept the follow request. So I'm wondering, do I go for it or is it too much? Should I just leave it be?
Well, I would say if I was in that position, I'd probably overthink it and think, oh, well, it's been too long. So now what's the point? There's also the thing that she might have not been hitting.
Been like, it's probably been like over 24 hours, but it hasn't been actually that long.
Yeah, I guess you're right. The other thing is, it's possible that she wasn't hitting on you. She just thought the look was nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, then at that point, it's like, what do you have to lose? You go back to the restaurant and, it's kind of awkward between you two. But I mean, what are the odds that 1, she's still working there, 2, she's your server, and 3, she'll acknowledge that anyway? Exactly.
That's what I thought. Same thing. Same thought process. It's like, what do I really have to lose? What sort of like, first of all, I wasn't sure if I should hit the follow originally, but she accepted the request. So clearly, so far, no boundary has really been disrespected. So it's kind of like
you're going to get a woman that's not going to let you follow her that in these days. So I mean, to be fair, I don't think that means anything necessarily.
But what I'm saying is that at least that wasn't a sort of disruption of boundaries, which is
right.
I mean, already like is saying something, at least somewhat, possibly. I'm not necessarily saying this as 100%. I'm just saying theoretically, in my mind, hypothetically, this is what I'm thinking here.
Theoretically and hypothetically, simultaneously.
Yeah. No, well, the thing is, it's like I wasn't sure about it because I was like, well, I get it. Like, it's pretty easy to find people these days. They're accessible on these sites. Does it make it fine? Is it sort of like the phone book thing where it's like you can just look up somebody's name once you know it? Like, is that like that wasn't weird back in the day? But I also think there's like sort of like what?
Was it not?
I mean, if you talk to somebody and you're like, oh, I want to reach out to this person again, it wasn't like the worst thing. Just like talking to people in public.
I guess so. But I mean, the only exposure I've had to that was watching Terminator. So it was definitely not a vibe that I got like, oh, this is something people do. But then at the same time, why is there a phone book to begin with if it's not something people do? So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, well, point being, I'm just saying there has been more of a social stigma about like approaching people or calling people or talking to people like that you aren't necessarily the most familiar with, at least in recent times. So that was kind of my mindset of like, okay, well, at least, despite the context that I think of this from, people are obviously going to have different interpretations of things. So it's like possibly It's still not the best move to do. I mean, probably if I were to do this 10 different times, in 10 different instances with 10 different women, there probably wouldn't be a good reception, even if it's like, even if I count like no reception as a good reception, or as a positive reception, I should say, there would at least be like a couple bad receptions, I'd say. I don't know.
I mean, I want to be honest. When it comes to like any kind of no, yeah, I'm not gonna say that. Anyway, yeah, I think, yeah, like, it doesn't hurt, I guess. You would just have to make sure she remembers you,
Yeah,
which I mean, you can't really guarantee. So I mean, you don't really know until you do anything about it.
that's true.
And then she did go up to you initially,
Yeah, for no
which
reason other
would
than
imply
yeah,
some form of interest, even if it's not like a romantic interest. It's still some kind of interest.
it is
And a
at
lot of
worst,
women, they have the
it is at worst a foot in the door.
pretty much. Like, I mean, if you really wanted to be dedicated, you could be like, "Oh, haha, you like pretend it's like a friend thing, and then go up the ladder." Like if it doesn't go the
Interesting.
way like 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 if you reach out and it doesn't go initially to like a romantic type thing, and I'm assuming that's what you're after, right?
Friends with women? How dare you?
I got to make sure we're living in weird times here, but um. So if that doesn't become like the initial way, you could play it off as like, "Oh no, I just thought we could be friends or whatever." Which I mean, yeah, I have some reservations on that kind of
That
tactic. But I
I
mean,
feel
if
like
it's
that's
worth
the
it, it's
creepy
worth
thing,
it.
if anything. I feel like
It kind
that
of
would be
is,
the
yeah.
weird thing.
But I mean, if you're
I
into,
think
if
I think if anything, the least weird thing is to be an all or nothing. It's like, well, either you're interested in me or you're not. That's just kind of my deal. Sorry. I mean, like, and it's almost a thing where it's like, if you don't like it, it's fine. No worries. But if you do, that's good. I like that too. Less pressure, the whole, like, saying I want to be friends with you after like one interaction. I know, like,
yeah,
obviously there's like
yeah.
I know obviously like the date thing is like, you would think that's like a level up, but like honestly, like saying you want just to be friends with somebody you like met randomly for like 2 seconds, well, it wasn't 2 seconds, it was a little longer than that, but I feel like that might be weirder.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
creepy.
you're
Like, it's
probably
like,
right.
honestly, I don't know, like a guy saying he wants to be friends with a woman in general, like saying like I want to be your friend, is kind of odd.
Well,
Like, women saying they want to be friends with guys is different. It's like, okay, she's just looking for a friend. They think different. It's like, but a guy being like, hey, you want to be friends? It's like, it's almost like he's still trying to get in. It's almost like he's still
no,
like,
he
and I know
totally
we're
is.
talking about like literally it is, right? Like you're saying here, this is a strategy for men that still want to get with women, right? So like, I feel like, she might see right through that if any guy tries to do that, or any woman would see right through that.
I'm
But
gonna be
maybe
honest.
not.
I think they're kind of retarded if they don't see
Yeah, I
through it.
know. I was gonna say that too. But maybe I'm just thinking about this over analytically because of my male mind.
That's a real issue.
Yeah.
That's my issue. Yeah, it's probably look after this deliberation of sorts. Yeah, you probably should just go all or nothing if you're gonna do anything.
Right.
I mean, obviously, when I was saying go in through the friend zone, I didn't mean like literally go, hey, I want to be friends.
No,
No,
well, I
because
know, but
that's
like, basically, like if you are asked about your intentions, then you would say such a thing would be what I would find to be kind of weird.
right. But how often are the intentions explicitly stated though?
They
Like
can be. I mean, there may
they
be a
can be,
context.
but I
It's not
find
necessarily that you have to be asked. It's like, what do you want out of this as soon as you start messaging somebody? But it's more so like if you were to drop it at any point, sort of like hint at what you want. Even hinting at the friends thing is kind of like odd, even if you're like, oh, just looking for new friends, or oh, just thought you're a
oh
friendly
yeah, yeah,
person
yeah.
and I want to hang to just to hang.
So what my vision was, okay, let me rephrase that. What my interpretation of what you would be doing is basically proceeding as normal, but without being explicit about anything. And then whatever happens, happens. And then like use the friend thing. The friend thing is kind of like implied, not
Mhm.
explicitly stated.
Yeah. The odd thing is, this reminds me of that one time that I was telling you about this one girl that like I was in another state for like this convention thing, and I was like hosting at like a table, right? And I can tell the story because I guess people aren't familiar with it. So there we go. You can rehear it, Gregory. So the thing is, basically she comes up, she starts talking to us about it. I give her some sort of pitch. I remember about this, like sort of like, oh, this is what we're about and all that. And then she just kind of gives this look, and I'm like, what? Like, you're not interested or what? I just kind of joke a little bit. I forgot exactly how it went. Point being, we have this short conversation. I forgot why this got brought up, but anyway, I think she might have asked where like I was from or something, and then she apparently like knew Spanish as well, and so we had this like short conversation and whatever. It was like a sort of friendly. I thought it was sort of a friendly thing. I thought she looked good, whatever, sure, but I didn't really like hit on her or anything like that. But anyway, point being, I was gone from the table. She comes back. I don't know if it was the next day or the same day, somewhere around there. She starts asking about this guy. Like she's like, oh, well, she doesn't say this guy, but she starts asking about like other people that are at the table, right? So more specifically, she's actually asking the guy who is there. She's saying, oh, are the other people from your table like gonna be here like anymore? And so the whole thing with that is like, okay, well, first of all, it seemed like she was interested in me the first time. It actually did come off like that, even though I didn't really say much. It did. Then she's asking about other people that are there, and I was really the only person missing at that time. And then I think it was like I ran into her after that again. I don't know what it was, but basically we followed each other on Instagram at the first like meet between each other, because like she was asking, oh, and this too, like she was basically asking me for like if I'm on Instagram. We exchanged Instagrams, and then she almost left before like acknowledging the other guy that was there, and she's like, oh, if you want to as well, whatever. That was like kind of a signal in my mind that's like, wait a minute, exactly. So and those two things, first of all, were already clear signals, right? But whatever. I think I asked her on Instagram, I'm like, oh, you want to go hang out at this thing? Because there were like a lot of bars and stuff in the area. I'm like, you want to do this? She's like, oh, well, I'm already at my Airbnb now, whatever. Whatever, like I'm like, all right, makes sense. You don't want to like go out after you're already settled and everything. I don't remember all the details about this because I don't really care about it, but I thought it was a good anecdote for the show. About how maybe you can misinterpret a situation, or maybe people change their minds pretty quick, or especially women. What I know is that I think I had talked to her again about it. Like, oh, yeah, it would have been cool if you hung out yesterday, like I did this and that and whatever. And, I was just saying what I did. Like, I go out by myself anyway, or not by myself. I went out with the guys, but, I'm just kind of saying like, without your presence being there, I still did what I was going to do, and this is how fun it was or whatever. I don't know. I think she said like, oh, yeah, I might hang out with some friends, or maybe like, yeah, we could do something. I don't know, whatever. It just never really turned into anything, and I was confused by it because it seemed like she was into me at first. I'm not exactly sure what changed. It seemed like she was still into me after that. But then it just seemed to like drop off for some reason. Maybe, I don't know, maybe she met somebody else there. I don't know what. But it was weird, dude. Like what perplexes me about this, it's not even like I was that upset or anything. It's just like, it's like strange, how could somebody be so like on and off like that? Like, I just don't get it. Nothing really changed about me. So it's like, what the fuck? What's going on here? I'm like in some like kind of like Twilight Zone shit.
Yeah. I really don't know, because I remember you telling me this story too, and I was also perplexed from what I remember too when you told it to me. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's just a female thing. They're very cryptic, and the thing is, you can't be explicit about like asking things like that either. Because then if there was something there, then it's kind of like, well, why are you asking it like that kind of thing?
Yeah, it was, well, it's like there's flags to come in, then there's not any flags, and there's flags to come in. I remember you sending me some like GIF or something of that. It's like red flag, green flag or something.
Yeah.
It's like not clear.
It's never clear. That's what it's really annoying about it.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't misinterpret these things usually, because I don't usually go on the side of assuming like the woman that's speaking to me is into me automatically or anything like that. Like, I am not really one to just think that. But I can tell when there are signs. I can pick up on signs that are clear, like that clear, like these two examples that I'm giving, I feel like are kind of on the clearer side, at least. This one that I was mentioning more recently, not the one that happened more recently, but the one I just mentioned, in the other state, that one seemed more clear than this last one, which still seemed a little clear, just, I mean, to an extent. But yeah, I'm not one to really go like, oh yeah, this has to be just, somebody that's being friendly or something, I don't, again, I just don't like misinterpret it usually. I'm usually good at this.
Yeah, I mean, there are like there's like so many different ways to like look at it too, because on one hand she did go out of her way while she was working to come up to you and make a comment, but it wasn't exactly a comment about you in particular. It was about your attire, which
Well, she did
could
say I
go
was
either
creative
way,
with the
really.
actual like reply when she's saying like people don't usually, say that or whatever.
Which could be just an honest
That could be.
acknowledgement of the fact that that's what happens, or it could be like, oh, I wasn't
And
expecting this,
also
and
the
yeah.
acknowledgement that I noticed when you came in, I couldn't help but notice or something like
Oh,
that along those
oh
lines.
shit, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, see that's the thing. It's like almost 3 for 3 on there. Come on.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's like, so it, and I mean, I don't know. I guess I just got to shoot the shot on that and see. We'll talk about it next time I have something. If I do, if nothing happens, nothing happens. If something happens, I'll mention it, but yeah, exactly. Like, well, I don't know. Maybe I interpret it perfectly and it's all fine. And there's no weird shit. There's no fuck shit happening here. I don't know. Maybe.
Ideally, there would be fuck shit happening.
Oh, well, I'm saying, like on some, well, I can't, can I use that word? Like disabled shit.
I mean,
like
I used it
slow,
already.
retarded.
Hey, if you say it in a French accent, it's just saying tardy. Leopold.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm hoping none of that happens. Whatever happens, whatever happens, because it could get like, things can get out of hand so easily with anything in life. It's just like you barely do anything. You're just kind of like, oh, well, why not? And then things just go crazy for some reason.
Go crazy. Go stupid.
But anyway, I mean, that's pretty much all I had to say on that. I'm not really got more on that.
I think you might as well go for it, and then you have nothing to lose, really.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of at that decision point.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck? Oh no!
What?
Did disregard that.
That sounded so like dramatic. That was like you lost something important.
Yeah, I had I had music playing, and then a song came up in my shuffle that I didn't know about, and it looked kind of not my speed, so I got really upset.
Gay.
I'm not autistic, I swear.
Yeah, I remember my autistic roommate. He would always wear these headphones.
Wait, like everywhere?
Yeah, he would like walk places, always have them on. They're these like over ear headphones. I mean, they were bulky, man.
Is it like the new helmet?
Yeah, probably. Right. And what about the ones with the cat ears? That's interesting.
I saw some of those at Best Buy the other day.
Wow.
Yeah. They're moving in.
I saw a cart at this outlet with like a bunch of Hello Kitty stuff. And I know it's not just for little girls. There's a lot of girls our age that like this Hello Kitty aesthetic.
Dude, what is with that? I mean, I know we're kind of getting like pretty big on time, but like, what the fuck? I don't even understand these memes anymore. Like, maybe I'm just so out of touch and out of time that I don't know what's going on here. But like the Hello Kitty thing, like meme, oh, don't talk to the Hello Kitty girl, that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Why are people into that at that age? What's going on?
Yeah,
if somebody came up to me,
it's kind of like the color pink, like it's sort of like, or like the Barbie thing, Yeah,
it's like, I'm not gonna raise an eyebrow if like a girl's wearing a pink dress or something like that, or she's dressed up in pink as Barbie for like Halloween or something like that. But like doing the whole like stereotypical girl thing, like with the pink and everything and like that, and the cutesy thing, like just out and about. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of touch or something and out of time, but it just seems weird at that age. It's like that's not like what you do. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I think that, well, at least the Instagram stereotype is that like they have a lot of roaches in their house, and they're for some reason their pussy turns you whack. It melts you on the inside or something like that. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, they're supposed to be like these disgusting humans, apparently, according to Instagram lore.
Oh yeah, that's what I would like think. If somebody like came up to me and they're like wearing all Hello Kitty, I think they're autistic.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I mean,
I mean, it's sort of been like an aesthetic that's just been adopted to that similar extent as like the pink stuff. It's supposed to be like this girly girl thing.
Does anybody actually like girly girls that isn't autistic?
You know, I mean, like, I don't think it's the worst thing. You know, like it's.
I mean, it's not, but like I don't see it like ever anywhere, like outside of like a cartoon or something.
Huh,
Like
I
okay,
don't know.
well within a like
I mean,
our age range, I
it's
should
better
say.
than a lot of other choices, honestly.
It is, but it's still perplexing to me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
But yeah,
know. I don't know where it stemmed from. Maybe honestly, it could be kind of a kink thing. I don't know.
yeah, that's not good.
DDLG.
What?
That's a daddy
Oh,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So discount PDF file fetish.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
You sound like Peter. Well, yeah.
Yeah. There are some
It's not good
unresolved issues there.
for sure. But yeah, I mean, shit. I was gonna say something else, and I totally forgot about it now. This is like the third time this has happened in this episode.
I don't know how much I want to even go into that, but like, some of these chicks, they will do it to like, if it's like the older ones, it's not as weird, but the ones that like use like the pacifiers, that is so weird.
No, yeah, that's
That is just
definitely
another
crossing the
level.
line.
That's another level of it. Like the other ones, I can at least be like, okay, well, you just kind of like you like a submissive kind of thing, submissive dominant kind of thing. But this one is just like, dude, I mean, seriously? Like, I don't even want to say it, but Jesus.
There's really no way you can like paint that in a like not disgusting way.
Yeah. That one is just, it's like anything that's like an supposed to be like representing prepubescence is just too much. It's
And that's like,
there's just no turning back from that.
that's why I'm like so perplexed by the Hello Kitty thing and like the cat ear. Well, the cat
Yeah.
ears I kind of get. That's like a Japanese thing, but
Mhm.
it's still not great.
I don't
But
think Hello Kitty's supposed to be like infantile,
I mean, maybe I'm just associating with that
Yeah.
incorrectly.
Like, I don't think the
but
aesthetic itself is supposed to represent that or anything. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong here. I don't know. I just don't think it is supposed to be like that.
it
Just in the
rubs
same
me
way
the wrong
Barbie
way.
isn't.
Oh yeah, Barbie. That's because like Barbie's kind of different now with the whole literally me thing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't seen that.
What? The Barbie movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it at a friend's birthday party. It was pirated, and like I'm saying, I don't know if I said it on here before, but it ends with Barbie going to the gynecologist. I'm not kidding. And honestly, I liked the movie until they ended the patriarchy. It was like good until then. That's when it got bad, when they ended it.
I've heard so many things about this movie that I don't even really know what to expect, despite the fact that I know exactly what to expect because people told me about it.
Well, anyway, Ken's the hero, obviously.
It did kind of seem like it, yeah.
He's literally me.
Is he though?
No. Yes. No. Logically speaking, no.
But
Well, there's something inside you. It's hard to explain.
that was wow. Wow, what a great place to end it, I guess.
Yeah. It's been good. I think that this was a pretty good episode. We covered a lot of different topics, a lot of different things. Yeah, this seems like an average conversation we'd have.
Pretty much. Like this is like the default conversation, pretty much. It's covered pretty much everything we talk about usually.
Yeah. Well, there we go. That is your podcast ever. Because I mean, really, it is the podcast. The podcast ever.
Yeah. We gotta get John back on sometime.
Yeah. We need our other friend. He was supposed to come on.
Yo. I told you he didn't respond to anything I sent him.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday he sent me a video on Snapchat, completely unrelated to anything we were talking about beforehand. So I was like, okay, maybe he's just, he's just gonna get back to it eventually. So I responded with a snap, also not related to what was going on. And I figured he'd like get back to me or something, be like, oh shit, I didn't see the messages or whatever. And that didn't happen. Instead, what I got today was like another snap. I haven't looked at it yet. I don't know what's going on.
Well, there you go.
So maybe you guys will see him, maybe you won't. I don't know.
Find out
Maybe I
next
need to like
time.
go in person and like ask him again.
Find out next time on the podcast ever.
Yeah. Also like and subscribe and leave a comment. Yeah. Bye. Yeah,